Hi, I'm Jamie.
I'm Gabe. Welcome back.
Mm-hmm.
Last week, the House concurred on the Senate bill to defund Planned Parenthood.
Yes.
Yippee skippy.
Woohoo.
Last week's podcast, we played some audio for our regular listeners, some of the floor speeches. We heard some very nice remarks from Kathleen Clyde, who this time did not get shut down by the Speaker of the House in her attempt to speak. Amelia Sykes, Janine Boyd, Greta Johnston, they all did a really nice job trying to defend against the bill. In the end, of course, it passed.
We knew it was going to happen. Yes,
as we knew it would. So what do you think happens now?
Well, now the governor has to sign it. So it's really just when he decides to come back to Ohio and, sign the bill. He swung through on Sunday and signed some road naming bills and commemorative day bills. But
it was like 5 bills that he signed.
Yeah, but they were all like stupid little, like naming this section of road after Buck Reinhardt and naming this day after some random rare disease, and none of them were like significant. Only one I think was a significant bill. So
yeah,
a little surprised that wasn't one of them,
right?
Because we thought that he wanted to sign it before South Carolina, but he must have some other political calculation because Kasich doesn't do anything without all of the political calculations involved.
Right. Yeah, and that kind of raises the question in my mind of, we've been saying for quite some time that this is purely politically motivated, because it obviously it doesn't help women's health care in any way. It hurts. Maybe they want to have the media cycle that the bill's been passed and that Kasich's going to defund Planned Parenthood, but yet they want to be able to somehow avoid the criticism that is being done for South Carolina.
I don't see how that helped. I mean, South Carolina is so conservative and so Christian conservative that, maybe you might be able to make that argument in like more of a Nevada, which is the next one coming up.
Right.
And then he's got, Michigan and some of those states too. But I mean, the conservative base, Rick Schneider in Michigan is not a, middle of the road, moderate kind of guy. I mean, he's already passed the right to work stuff and other things, even though he said he would never do it. So actually, Kasich and Rick Schneider are a lot alike, like to pretend they're moderates, but not really actually. So, I don't know exactly what, is going on. I mean, because unlike all the other bills where Kasich has been like, oh, no, I'm just waiting, I'm just doing what the legislature wants me to do. I mean, he's been out and proud about, oh, yeah, I'm going to sign that bill. I mean, he's never been that out and proud about signing these bills before. This is something he definitely wants to do.
Yeah.
But is for some reason hiding.
Right. Well, Super Tuesday is in mid-March.
Yeah, the 8th.
And that they're kind of referring to that as the SEC primary, because a ton of states across the South are all up for grabs. I don't think there's any chance that he moves up in the polls much in South Carolina now. I know we were talking yesterday about something that put him fairly high in.
Yeah, there was one poll that put him 3rd, but most of the other ones have him in a solid 5th. One of them actually had him behind Ben Carson, which just made me laugh hysterically.
Yeah,
I mean, the guy's basically comatose.
So then maybe Kasich is hanging on to this bill because he's got 10 days. 10 days from the date where the bill actually gets to his desk, and it hasn't hit it yet.
No, and there's no time frame that requires it to go to him in any period of time. So
they can drag this out as long as they want. And it really looks like that's what they're doing right now.
Yeah, exactly.
So the legislature, the leadership really wanted to get the bill to him. He said that he really wanted the bill. Now he's got the chance to sign the bill, and he's not doing so, and he's never here.
Yeah. I mean, he'd have to stop back in the state in order to actually, sign things. So he's too busy in South Carolina trying to move up in the polls. But I mean, he cut his Michigan trip short. So
yeah, I don't know.
Who knows?
We'll see.
He's got some political calculation because that's the only reason to do these things right now.
Right. But there's so many other Southerners that he's competing against right now. Because really half the pack, Rubio, Bush, and Carson. I always forget that Carson's from Florida. Yeah. Half of them are from the South.
Cruz, Texas.
Yeah. So that's, really him and Trump are like the Northerners of the bunch. So, that could explain why he was in Michigan, just to kind of nail down that Midwestern base. It'll of course be interesting to see how he does when Ohio faces their primary. But for right now, yeah, it looks like he's still just playing the political football game with these funds for women healthcare. So we'll see how that goes. The other thing that happened last week that we didn't get a chance to talk about was House Bill 408. It heard sponsored testimony.
Yeah, surprisingly. So House Bill 408 is actually one of our bills introduced by Representative Stephanie House from the Cleveland area and Representative Michelle Lepore-Hagan from Youngstown. It was the last one that we introduced, and it was the one on the buffer zones around clinics and allowing employees of clinics to sue in civil court when they're faced with harassment and intimidation. So surprisingly, they asked for sponsored testimony, and sponsored testimony was, granted. I'm not 100% sure they knew what they were doing because of the way they ran committee then. Because, of course, we were third on the agenda, and we got to the third bill, and they skipped over it and went to the other bill. This whole time, Lepore-Hagan and House are sitting in the front row, right by the aisle, right in front of the committee chair, waiting to speak. And he just continued. He skipped over him and went to the fourth bill. He skipped over and went to the fifth bill. And the fifth bill was the last bill on the agenda. Instead of calling that one, he recessed committee for a couple of minutes, even to discuss things.
Walked right out of the room.
Yeah, and walked right out of the room. At which point we went, what the heck is going on here?
Yeah.
We later found out that it was because we had been unofficially told we could videotape, and then were told that that was not actually the case, and we were not allowed to videotape, and we were told to take the video camera down.
Yeah, the chairman's office said, go ahead and bring your camera and a signed copy of the permission slip.
That sounds like permission to me.
Yeah.
But,
Oh. If they would just be honest, then I wouldn't have to schlep the tripod around.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to be able to videotape. I think I should have the right to videotape a public committee hearing in the state of Ohio.
In a public building with public officials. I mean, everything about that is paid with tax dollars. Yeah. Everything.
So.
Yeah, no. So they went on like a 10-minute, 15-minute break, and they finally came back after telling us we had to stop videotaping, and finally called them up to do their sponsored testimony.
Yeah. I think the break to wait to figure out who was going to tell us not to videotape took longer than the actual testimony did.
Yeah, it did. Totally. So they delivered a testimony, talked about the bill and how it would protect doctors, and how it really is, out of all the bills that we've introduced, this would be the one that everybody should be able to agree on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doesn't matter what you feel like about abortion. Doctors should not be threatened with death, be called child killers, be harassed in their home. One of the doctors out of Dayton actually talked about a time when her teenage daughter went for a jog through the neighborhood, and the Created Equal truck with her mom's picture, accusing her mom of supporting child killing, is the words they use, actually followed her in her jog through the neighborhood. Went 3 miles an hour behind her, following her through the neighborhood. Yeah. I mean, that is the kind of behavior that is happening, and that is what this bill is out to protect against. It's something that we should all be able to agree on. And of course, you saw that, they skipped over them, treated them with complete disrespect, and then none of them had questions about any of it.
Right.
Our people had some questions to kind of, pull out some more of the details that they wanted to focus on.
Right.
Rep. Sykes actually talked about how when she was an intern at NARAL, she didn't mention us, but that was what she was talking about. And in our Cleveland office, where we're located inside an abortion clinic, and how she faced that harassment every day coming in as an intern.
Right.
So it was a really great hearing. They did a really great job. As we were walking out, Rep. Lepore-Hagan turned to the chairman and said, "I'm looking forward to future hearings on the bill. I am sure we will get none," because they're legally required. Everybody should know they're legally required to do the one hearing because we introduced it before their little arbitrary deadline.
Right.
They aren't required to do anything else.
So this was in all likelihood the hearing on this bill.
We'll continue to push for them, but yeah.
And what I thought was interesting is there was, if you looked at the audience, a real motley crew of actual abortion protesters who I have seen scream and yell at people, sitting just packed in the audience. There were all sorts of protesters in T-shirts in the hall outside. I mean, they were clearly there to try and continue the intimidation of these legislators and anybody who was there to support them.
Mm-hmm.
Their response that we've already started to hear from them, and I overheard Ohio Right to Life staff making this argument even this morning over at the State House, is they want to protect the First Amendment and they want free speech. The thing about free speech and how we talk about realistic limits on it is always you can't yell fire in a crowded theater.
Yeah.
And I feel like these protesters aren't just yelling fire in the crowded theater. They're saying, I'm going to set you all on fire.
Yeah.
You really can't say that.
No. I mean, we have quotes. I mean, we asked our friends at Preterm just to kind of put together a quickie list. I expected like 5 bullet points. I got 20 bullet points. Right. And they were all recent experiences. One that really stuck with me, the Monday after the Colorado Springs shooting, one of the protesters in a sinister voice asked, "Do you really feel safe going in there today?" I mean, how is that not threatening?
Right.
And that's the thing. These bills don't stop the protests outside of abortion clinics. You can still have your signs. You can still scream at these women.
Right.
What we're saying is you can't be 5 feet away from them, screaming at them, following them, harassing them.
Right.
If they want to engage in a conversation with you, they can still engage in that conversation with you. You can still scream and yell at the top of your lungs. You just can't cross that line into harassment, following, and intimidation.
Right.
And then the other piece of it, and it kind of has shown itself in some of the recent kind of police shootings that we've seen, is that yes, there are criminal laws against harassment and intimidation, but you and me can't pull somebody into court because of that on criminal charges. Those have to be brought by a prosecutor. The county prosecutor has to be willing to prosecute those. And what we see, the doctor I just talked about in the Dayton area, she called her local police department and they said, well, we really can't do anything because we didn't see it. Just make sure she calls us next time. The next time they could be following her with a gun.
Right.
So, this gives our doctors a chance to be proactive. And it even gives them a chance to get what's called an affirmative judgment, to say, this is not okay. Like, they don't get money. They don't get, damages or those kinds of things. They get a statement from the court that says they can't do this at your house.
Right.
And that's what they need. They need to be able to say, this is not okay, this is not right, and you need to stop this. Because yes, you have a First Amendment right to free speech. And, that is one of the founding blocks of our country is, the right to scream something I'm completely opposed to right next to me all day long, if you wish. Right. But we can't cross that line into actually harassing and actually intimidating people.
And that's what happens outside nearly every abortion provider's office almost every single day that they're open all across the state of Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
So that was House Bill 408. Got some good questions from Representative Sykes and Johnston.
Mm-hmm.
And then this morning, it got promoted at URGE. That's a pro-choice reproductive rights students, mostly students from across the state of Ohio. They're having a lobby day today. You were there at their media event and spoke in support of that bill and the other pieces of legislation in the Abortion Access Without Apology legislative package.
Yeah.
So I think we got some audio from that and we'll probably tack it on to the end of the podcast so folks can hear how that went. But that was a very good event this morning.
Yeah, they had a really great turnout. This is, I think, only the second, maybe the third time URGE has done legislative advocacy day with their students. Yeah. And last year, I want to say they may have had 40 or so students, and she said she was at 70 today, which is a really awesome turnout. Yep. Really great turnout, and really shows just how active and vocal young people are in the state of Ohio. It was really great.
Yeah. And a nice media event. You spoke, a representative, Amanda, who's been on our podcast before from Founders Women's Health Center. Senator Capri Cafaro was there. She's the sponsor of the Prevention First Act. And then some students and some other activists. So, really solid media day. So way to go, kids, over at URGE.
Yeah, It was awesome.
Yeah. And then the last big story was the Supreme Court shocker.
Big story, understatement of the year.
Yeah, no one was expecting, the passing of Justice Scalia in Texas. So I think that caught everybody completely off guard. I was talking about it with folks over the weekend, and when we saw the headline, I mean, it literally took a minute to kind of, let that sink in, and I was almost dizzy just because it was like, holy cow, I can't believe that just happened.
Yeah, I mean, it just turned everything upside down. The political campaign, the presidential campaign, the last year of Obama's presidency,
right.
The Supreme Court cases that are, currently pending before this court. I mean, everything, when you've got a, progressive president and a conservative, keystone conservative justice leaves the court like that suddenly, it's a big, huge deal.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned Obama's the last year of his presidency, and that didn't really hit me until yesterday because he was making some remarks about the campaign in general, and they interrupted NPR last night as I was driving around, and I was listening to him speak live. And I remember the last year of the Clinton White House. And the last year of the Bush White House. And what I really remember about those very last years of each administration was the White House Correspondents' Dinner that year. And what they brought to the event were these really sort of goofball, very lighthearted videos of what each lame duck president was doing in the White House. And, it was grilling in the backyard, and the first lady was off to do some important event, and the president was left just sort of hang out in an empty White House, and all the staff was leaving. And the last years of their presidencies were each very slow and boring and dull. And Obama is not going to have that for his last year. It really hit me that, wow, he's going out just, the full, all the way to the buzzer. This is going to be huge.
Yeah. Well, and I think, of course he could go out, very lazy and everything else, but he's now said that he's not going to. And I mean, the fact is he's still president.
Right.
Ohio Right to Life loves to shove down our throats that elections have consequences in cases it goes to our governor and that he's going to sign their bills and we just should shut up and just deal with it.
Right.
You know what? Presidential elections have consequences too.
Yeah.
And Obama was elected twice by decently wide margins, and he has the right to, fulfill his constitutional duties and appoint people to the Supreme Court.
Right.
And, what was really interesting about it too, and the timing of all of it, was that there was a Republican debate that night.
Yeah.
And I did actually tune in for the first part of it because I went straight into, Scalia dying and what all their reactions were. And every single one of them were, Trump's line was delay, delay, delay. I'm like, no, that's not how our country works. That's not how our government works.
Right.
And it is a perfect kind of illustration of how the Republicans have tried to run government since Obama took office, 7 years ago. Wait him out.
Stalled everything, shut down wherever possible, not pass any serious legislation, not approve nominees. Yeah, it has been the complete stated game plan from as soon as he took office.
Yeah, I mean, Rob Portman's already said, our Ohio senator has already said that, Obama should wait and he wouldn't approve any nominees.
It's ridiculous and irresponsible at the same time.
Yeah. So, I mean, 125 days is the longest anybody's gone from the day they were nominated to the day a decision was made one way or the other.
Right. And we're over 330 days left in this administration. So this really shouldn't stretch into the summer. I'm sure it will.
It will.
It shouldn't reach into the summer. I mean...
Well, and the people I've seen kind of floated as, possibilities. And of course, presidents have always proven that they can, pull off the list, from out of midair. Harriet Miers comes to mind, random people. But, he's got like 3 or 4 people that have been recently confirmed by the Senate by unanimous votes for various federal judgeships and those kinds of things that he can pick from. So, and then he could go completely left field and, pick some amazing other person. But it'll be interesting to see who he does pick and when he does pick them and what the response is. I mean, you were elected to do your job. Your job is to confirm nominees.
Right. In the meantime, though, the business of the court moves on. The case that we are watching the closest is formerly known as Whole Women's Health versus Cole. It's now Whole Women's Health versus Hellerstedt, I think. And it's the case out of Texas that really, really mirrors a lot of what's been going on in the state of Ohio. They are challenging the state's ability to pass completely just, medically unnecessary restrictions on reproductive rights, restrictions on abortion providers specifically, that don't have anything to do with the actual practice of medicine. They're clearly just meant to be measures to try and close abortion providers. So the clinic in Texas that's leading the charge is Whole Woman's Health.
Yes.
Whole Woman with an A. Whole Woman's Health. And if they are able to win this court battle, then it could have serious ramifications for all of the restrictions that we're seeing here in Ohio.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's and it could go a variety of ways, a whole new way now that there's only 8 justices on the court. But kind of like the first ruling, the California ruling, I can't remember the name. That was the gay woman who was challenging the inheritance laws and being married. The first marriage case that they saw out of California, where the courts ruled in a very, very narrow way that only affected California and those states. So we could see something out of the court on that in that way. So it would only do that, but it really does look like it's going to have whole reaching effects over what we've seen here, what other states have started doing kind of in response to, unfortunately, what Texas and Ohio have done. But this does add a whole nother dimension to it, because unlike a couple of the other cases that progressive people are watching on voting rights and on labor unions and those kinds of things, the lower court in Texas actually ruled against us.
Right.
So in the teachers union case out of California, I think it is, the lower court actually ruled on our side in favor of public sector unions, such that if there's a tie in the lower court rules, we win that case.
Right.
Well, in Whole Women's Health, that's not the case. The lower court actually ruled against us. So if it's a 4-4 tie, which it very easily could be, we're looking at the lower court ruling standing, which is really, really bad for Texas. Right. But slightly better for the rest of the country.
Better than had it been a 5-4 loss.
Yeah. Right. So if it had been, we're not going to, with Scalia gone, we're now not going to lose this case, I wouldn't think. We've got 4 solidly progressive justices.
Texas could lose, but in the event of that 4-4 tie reaffirming the lower court, it would not set the legal precedent to apply to all the other states in the country.
Yeah, and it would allow, even from what I was reading, it would allow also that Texas case to be relitigated when they do have a 9th justice. So they could actually try to go back.
Wow. That's interesting.
I'm not 100% sure, but that was what some of the SCOTUS blogs said.
Or some other state, like Ohio, could take a second crack at it.
So, Texas is just so much of a better case than Ohio because, they've lost percentage-wise similar percentages of clinics, but they've lost whole areas of the state. So like the whole Rio Grande Valley doesn't have a clinic anymore.
Right.
And Texas is a much bigger state than Ohio.
Whole areas of Texas could include a state, the chunk the size of Ohio itself.
Exactly. So, we've lost half of our clinics, but we've managed to hold on to those last couple in those areas that there's only one left. So, Ohio doesn't have quite the case that Texas does. So they were a much better, solid case. But it'll be really interesting to see what happens with that case now. And, we could still get a 5-3 win if Kennedy were to cross over. But we'll just kind of have to see.
Yeah. So hopefully we are taking a busload of supporters out to Washington.
Woohoo, road trip.
From Cleveland. So if you're in the Cleveland area and want to join us on March 2nd, it's technically March 1st and 2nd. We're going to drive through the night. Join the demonstration that's being sponsored by the Center for Reproductive Rights. Hang out there and then hop back on the bus and drive back home. The entire trip is like a 24-hour big circle. We're going to be loading that bus up, so folks can contact us. Let's say at choice@prochoiceohio.org.
Works.
Email us for information, and then we'll send you off the link for the reservation form. and try and do that soon because we're packing the bus and those seats will go quick. So I think that's maybe our big thing for Let's Get It On.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's going to be a historic day. Those arguments are a huge thing. We haven't had a case this big in front of the Supreme Court really since Planned Parenthood versus Casey. I mean, this is huge.
Right.
So, be there for that historic day. Join us in the steps of the Supreme Court, where they actually do have a buffer zone. Even though they say,
no kidding.
Even though they say clinics can't have buffer zones, the Supreme Court does in fact have a buffer zone.
So we will giant buffer zone.
100 feet. So, we will be,
we're looking for like 5 feet here, maybe 15 at the most. They have a 100-foot buffer zone.
Yeah. So, we'll be in the protest zone.
Maybe that's the sign I'll make to take. Nice buffer zone.
There you go. I like that one.
Yeah.
So can we have one too?
Yeah. No kidding.
So be there, be square. Cleveland, leaving at like 11 o'clock on March 1st, arriving back in Cleveland at 11 p.m. on March 2nd. It'll be a roariously fun party bus on the way out and back. And
hopefully it'll be a sleeping bus on the way out. And then it can be a party bus on the way back.
Okay.
So, email us for information. And then, like I said, stick around. We'll include some audio from today's Urge Lobby Day media event. And then after that, that'll be it. We'll see folks next week.
Bye.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Allie Leahy. I am the Ohio State organizer for URGE, Unite for Reproductive and Gender Equity. I am so excited to have over 70 young people coming to the Capitol today to lobby their representatives about abortion access. We have over 12 colleges and universities being represented here today. We're here in the state capitol to lend our voices to a cause we all care so much about: reproductive health care and access to abortion in Ohio. As many of you may know, there's been an endless onslaught of attempts to shut down, shut out, and shut up the patients and providers of abortion clinics in Ohio. Now it's time for our voices to be heard. As we say, the hatred and violence should have no bearing on how and when we receive the health care that we need. No one should have to hear the hate-filled speech simply for going to see their doctor. It's time that we demand each person in Ohio to have the ability to control their own health and their own bodies. It's time to make Ohio work for us. Who's ready to make their voices heard in the State House today? So we don't stand alone here in this fight today. We are so lucky to have the support of community leaders like the Founders Women's Health Center and NARAL Pro-Choice Ohio here today. And we are so fortunate to have the support of State Senator Capri Cafaro. A native Ohioan, Senator Cafaro has worked tirelessly to advance sexual assault awareness and women's rights in our state. I'm so proud and excited to introduce Senator Cafaro.
Thank you. Thank you. And I am not tall. So the mic goes down. First, I want to thank all of you for coming out and lending your voice to what has turned into an endless fight and struggle to protect what is already a constitutionally protected right in the state of Ohio and across the country for our reproductive freedom of choice. I don't think it's any secret to many of you in this room that I have been an outspoken advocate for women's health and certainly against the defunding of Planned Parenthood in the state of Ohio, trying to emphasize the fact that this is about even more than abortion access. This is about access to health care for women that is going to be curtailed when Governor Kasich signs into law the defunding Planned Parenthood bill. So the implications for women trying to get cancer screenings, trying to get mammograms, trying to get access to contraception is going to be significantly impacted by, what I believe is a red herring in regards to the fight to defund Planned Parenthood. I also want to say a word about prevention. I have introduced a bill in this General Assembly, but I've introduced it several times over my almost 10 years in office. This General Assembly, it's Senate Bill 101, and that is commonly referred to as Prevention First. It would help develop medically accurate, age-appropriate, comprehensive sex education in the schools, And that is critically important because if we want to reduce the number of unintended pregnancies, we need to make sure that our young people understand what kind of access they have for contraception, and understanding their bodies, understanding what they need to do to protect themselves. And so, to me, if we want to be serious about things like infant mortality, if we want to be serious about reducing unintended pregnancies, if we want to be serious about making sure that we continue to control the cost of healthcare spending, particularly in Medicaid, then we need to ensure that we are doing what we can to empower women and men alike to have access to contraceptive care, because this is an important tool that we have to do all of these things, to reduce infant mortality, to ensure appropriate pregnancy spacing, and to ensure that we have the ability to raise children in an environment that is financially sound and secure, and so we can all be contributing members of society. So to me, that all sounds like common sense, and should be something that everyone can agree upon. Unfortunately, Senate Bill 101, just like every single other time I've introduced this bill, has not seen the light of day. We've had a few conversations with other members, but we really have not gotten any traction. So I would suggest, as you go around, remind folks about Senate Bill 101, the Prevention First bill, because again, if we want to make sure that we continue to reduce health costs, if we want to make sure that we are combating our egregious infant mortality rate, and we want to make sure that folks are contributing to the economy, we need access to comprehensive, medically accurate sex education, because that's where it starts. So good luck to all of you today. Your voice is needed in this fight, and look forward to hearing from all of you, and thank you for participating in democracy.
Thank you so much, Senator, and we couldn't be happier with your support today. So next up, I'd like to introduce you to one of URGE's best. Kasich Kirksey. Kasich is a student leader at Wright State University and has been working with URGE for over a year now. Help me in welcoming Kasich to the stage.
Oh, just the right height. I must have gotten tall. Today, we stand in solidarity, not only in support of House Bill 408, but also in defense of humanity. We are here in defense of every person's freedom of choice, equity, and safe access to the healthcare services that they need. Reproductive health clinics need the protection of the law to ensure that people can access healthcare that is safe and affordable. No one should ever have to be confronted with harassment and fear every time that they visit their doctor. We do not plea, we protest. We protest any infringement upon any person's safety. We organize in support of legislation that will protect people's safety and access, such as House Bill 408. And we unite. We unite young people across Ohio, across the nation, who advocate for what is just. Indeed, there is nothing more American than choice. There is nothing more American than equity and safety and the protection of those constitutional rights. We came here to Columbus today to demonstrate that we stand in solidarity with abortion providers, with persons who seek the services of abortion providers, with the patients, and with clinics across Ohio. We stand here in solidarity today, and we urge everyone to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Khadijah. As an URGE student leader at Bowling Green State University, I remember how amazing experiences like this inspired me to get excited about reproductive justice. Working with students like Khadijah, who are doing amazing things for reproductive and social justice issues on campus, makes me hopeful about the future of our great state. As URGE continues to work in Ohio, we couldn't do it without the support of fellow reproductive health advocates. Amanda Patton is one of those amazing advocates and a great friend of mine. As a patient advocate for Founders Women Health Center here in Columbus and the creator of Pro-Choice Cats, Amanda is well-versed in the ins and outs of political intrusion and reproductive health in Ohio. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Allie. Good morning. It is really, really encouraging to see all of you here today. As an employee of a local reproductive health clinic, I've seen over and over how important these health centers are to young Ohioans. I've also seen clinic harassment firsthand. Imagine for a moment that you're pulling up to your doctor's office just to find protesters knocking on your car window and impeding you from entering the parking lot. They knock on your window trying to get you to talk to them. You finally park, get out, and find yourself standing in front of a man who is shouting and holding a sign that implies you are a murderer. As you walk, that one man quickly becomes a mob of people who are telling you that this clinic isn't a safe place. Suddenly, you're frightened, pregnant, and outnumbered. This scene is a reality for women seeking abortion every day across the state at the few remaining clinics. Put yourself in their shoes and then tell me we don't need House Bill 408. Why are clinic protection laws necessary? Because there are people outside of clinics who harass and intimidate women who are just trying to get to their doctor appointments. Why are clinic protection laws necessary? Because protesters have stood outside of my doctor's home holding bloody fetus signs that say, "This doctor kills babies." Because Created Equal distributes Killer Among Us postcards that feature the photo and home address of abortion doctors. Why are clinic protection laws necessary? Because volunteer escorts have been verbally and physically accosted on numerous occasions outside of Columbus's abortion clinics. Because these legal medical clinics should not even need volunteer escorts to help patients feel safe when walking past protesters, and yet they do. I have always been pro-choice, but it wasn't my beliefs that made me want to work at an abortion clinic. It was actually the clinic harassment that pushed me to get involved. As I witnessed protesters following patients, staff, and volunteers outside of the clinic, I realized that our rights are literally being attacked. Women should not have to face a gauntlet just to get legal medical care. Physicians should not feel unsafe at their homes and workplaces. Women and healthcare workers deserve protection and the ability to safely report and prosecute anti-choice extremists who engage in harassment tactics. This is why we need House Bill 408 to become law. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Finally, I'd like to introduce Jaime Miracle from NARAL Pro-Choice Ohio. Jaime is the Deputy Director and lobbies for abortion rights and increased reproductive health care for those who need it in our state. Please join me in welcoming Jaime.
Thank you, Allie, and thank everybody for coming today. It's so amazing to look out and see such a great group. I stand here with all these other leaders and activists to affirm our support for access to abortion care in Ohio. We stand here for people who need access to this care and for all of those who have lost access under Governor Kasich's witch hunt of abortion providers. Last fall, when legislators in the House introduced our Access Without Apology legislative agenda, they laid out a comprehensive platform to ensure Ohioans have access to safe, legal abortion care, to remove barriers that patients face, and to protect providers from medically unnecessary regulations aimed not at protecting patients, but instead at closing the only licensed provider in communities across the state. But instead of acting on that agenda and ensuring that Ohioans have access to healthcare services they need, we are here once again as this governor is poised to sign yet another restriction, his 17th to be exact, on abortion and access to preventive health care in our state. And once again, Kasich and his buddies in the legislature don't care about the collateral damage that is occurring because of this crusade against abortion. This time, this bill even is willing, with this bill, he is even willing to defund local health departments, federally qualified health centers, to complete his mission. Kasich's reckless campaign to attack abortion is already impacting the health of Ohioans. People are crossing state lines to get access to abortion care they cannot obtain within our borders. Ohioans are being forced to delay abortions for weeks because Kasich and this legislature have closed half of our abortion providers. And as Amanda said, when people finally do arrive at the clinic, they are met with harassment and intimidation from those who oppose their personal health care decisions. This is not what Ohioans want, and this is not what Ohioans deserve. In fact, a recent poll found that overwhelming majorities of people want abortion to be safe, respectful of the woman's decision, supportive, affordable, and available without shame in her community. These are the values that you all are talking about and we are talking about today. And we urge Governor Kasich and this legislature to focus on what the people want, those values, rather than to continue to attack abortion access in our state. Thank you.
Thank you so much. URGE activists are doing amazing work all throughout the State House today. Our presence here and all over the state sends a message that we care, and young people really care. We care about our issues and our health, and we care a lot about the future of Ohio. Now it's time to show our lawmakers just how passionate and enthusiastic we are about reproductive health in our state. Again, thank you all so much for coming. This is the largest URGE Advocacy Day we've ever had in Ohio, with over 70 activists throughout the State House talking to their representatives today, and I could not be more thrilled. Good luck with all of your meetings, and take the energy and support from everyone in the room with you. Thank you.
Media people here who need to speak to a student from University of Toledo. I know you all have meetings, so if anyone's available, please let me know and get you situated. And thank you again. Yeah, okay, it's okay. So public broadcasting is back there. I'm not sure if she's planning on staying. She said she was going to feel it out and see. Then Toledo Blade is here and the indicator.
Yeah.